Ken, thanks for being with us. How are the numbers looking there today?
Thanks for having me, Dennis, and there's some glimmer of hope in today's numbers. We have 55 active cases of COVID-19 in Nunavut today. 54 of them are here in Iqaluit. Now, there were 2 new cases reported today and 10 people reported as recovered. And that's been the trend all week. New cases almost every day, but more people who have recovered than were getting new cases. As well, today, Iqaluit City Council announced that the Red Cross has arrived to help out. The first thing they're going to do is help staff Iqaluit's men's shelter. People on the staff have been forced to isolate it after being potentially exposed to COVID, and you can't run that shelter without staff.
So are they really feeling a pinch over at the men's shelter then right now?
Well, that's really what's happening, and it's that all the sort of social safety net things all over town is showing us how thin our safety net is. Like, look at food security here. We have a food center, and they operate a daily meal program, and it feeds about 200 people a day. Now, yesterday, it was feared they would have to close after one of their staff members tested positive for COVID-19. They managed to get the rest of the staff tested, and it was all negative, and they're now open. But if it wasn't for the Frobisher Inn stepping up yesterday and feeding those people, that would have been 200 more hungry people here in Iqaluit. The same goes for our schools being closed. The schools in Iqaluit have food banks, and they feed many hungry students every morning. Now, individual teachers in schools are trying to set pickup times for food or send food home with schoolwork, but it is hurting people in the community. And then again, as far as our safety net goes, everything gets flown in, and now cargo has been delayed for weeks and weeks now. Canadian North's been very backed up. Their own staff have had COVID-19, both here in Ottawa. Right now, they're doing most of their shipping. Instead of shipping from Ottawa, they're shipping from Hamilton. The grocery stores, we've been lucky. The grocery stores have been able to stay open, but with people being forced to isolate because of potential COVID-19 exposure, they don't know how many staff are going to show up in a given day. So it's been a real challenge, Dennis.
No kidding, and like you mentioned, people stepping up, even private businesses. How do people feel the government of Nunavut has handled this latest wave?
Well, the political end's about to get really interesting in the next week or so. The Nunavut Legislative Assembly is scheduled to come back next week. Sort of. What they're going to do, there are travel restrictions in place to and from Iqaluit, so they're going to try and do the session with a number of the MLAs remote from their home communities. That's a group of people in one of the country's worst served zones for internet, trying to video conference between multiple locations with simultaneous interpretation. That's got the potential to go pretty sideways. And then when you throw in the idea that we have a territorial election coming in October, it's going to be a very interesting session at the Assembly. Almost anything could happen.
No kidding. Sounds interesting. In terms of the medical side of things here, Kent, tests, vaccines in the arms, how's all that going?
Well, everyone here in Iqaluit, we all owe a debt to our public health workers. Dr. Michael Patterson, our Chief Public Health Officer, sort of explained it yesterday at a briefing. We're getting 100 people a day vaccinated here in Iqaluit, and the staff, they're working 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day. Now, that's not sustainable over the long term. But the testing's improved vastly in the last year. Most of our tests, it's a 24-hour turnaround. We find out pretty quickly if we've got a positive. But the biggest change coming, the potential to vaccinate teens. Nunavut has Canada's youngest population. So even if every adult in the territory took the vaccine, we have so many youth, we would have a lower percentage of people vaccinated than any other region in the country. So the idea that vaccines for teens are going to be coming off the plane for the more than 4,000 teenagers here in Nunavut, that's a pretty big deal.
No kidding. Good news indeed. Hopefully everybody gets those shots in the arm soon. Kent, appreciate you taking some time for us here today. Stay safe.
You stay safe too, Dennis, anytime.